I said it before and I'll say it again.
That scene, that last scene.
What does it mean?
I'm the dude, you know?
Get the fuck out of here. No, I cannot.
That final scene
Starts now.
Hello and welcome to That Final Scene, the podcast where we dive deep into the most memorable endings of movies. My name is Sophie and I'm joined by my co-hosts Simon and Ben.
Yo.
Hello. And today we've been meaning to do a summer episode with Point Break, but I feel like with this weather we should have probably done Singing in the
The
Rain.
ending scene of Point Break is very rainy and inclement. As
That
the
is-
train
the
announcements would say.
The 50-year storm, everyone. We could be in the 50-year storm right now.
That is a very good point.
Bodhi predicted it, man.
And also need the one-way ticket to Australia.
Yeah.
Oh, does it only happen there?
I think, yeah.
Is it not going to hit Brighton
Isn't
Beach?
it?
It's Bell's Beach. Is that what it's called? Bell's
something
Beach
like
or something
that.
like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's where he says the gnarliest waves will be. I will endeavour to use as many surfer dude terms as I can today.
I'm so glad the word
gnarly is my
radical
first
hasn't
one.
endured.
Yeah.
No, it certainly hasn't. Yeah,
My
only
dad
Bart
told me-
Simpson and that movie say radical.
My dad told me that when he was at school, they used to say stuff was wizard.
I've heard people. I feel like Wizard made a comeback. No, I thought Wizard came back a few years ago.
Wizard.
Yeah, but kids say stuff like peng now. I'd rather
No,
say
that's-
wizard. At least
that's
wizard's a word.
That's been and gone.
Okay, well, what do kids say now? It's been and gone.
Youngsters.
Even things that I think are cool
You
now
still
have
say
been and
gas,
gone.
which I really like.
Gas is a very Irish thing.
Gas
now.
seems to like keep going.
Gas means in what way though? What in
It just seems to never get old. Like,
no, what, like as in funny, like
as in something's good.
oh no. See, if something is gas, I would say it's funny.
All right.
I think gas means funny.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
And if it's bad, it's like straight to jail.
Did they say straight to jail?
Yeah.
Skull emoji.
Oh my god. Jesus Christ! I thought I knew how young people spoke. That's why when I hear them on the tube, it's like listening to absolute gibberish.
Ben, you're not exactly ancient.
I know, that's the worrying thing.
Oh,
That's the thing
okay.
that worries me the most is that I'm not ancient.
Positioning himself a long way from the youth, though.
I know.
You're always complaining on the train
Well,
when young
exactly.
people get
Yeah,
on.
but because I'm scared of them. They're so unpredictable. I don't know what they'll do. It's like being in a fucking tube with a lot of pigeons.
So funny.
Back to the movies.
Okay. What have you guys been watching?
I watched Risky Business the other night.
For the
Nice.
first time?
Yeah, for the
How
first
is that
time.
possible? I
Dunno.
thought, this is exactly your type of film.
Well,
I'm
because
glad it's not me on the Tom Cruise bandwagon this week.
Yeah, because I never really
It's
liked
turning
Tom
into a
Cruise.
tribute to podcast.
I
Right.
never really connected with him.
Yeah.
He wasn't my kind of guy. And then I watched Risky Business because I've been having a bit of a Tangerine Dream session at the moment, like musically.
What does that mean?
It's the group that did the soundtrack for Risky Business.
I didn't
It's
know
like
that.
I think they started in the 70s or maybe even late 60s, and they were like synth pioneers, and they played around with like minimalism and lots of like layers of looped synth notes, which is why that film has that hypnotic, dreamy feel all the way through. And it's got that amazing track called "Love on a Real Train," which happens during the
Is that when
train
he
sequence.
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking Risky Business is when he slides in his underwear, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's a
Risky
gif.
Business.
Yeah, it's a famous gif.
Yeah. It's when he is. It's kind of like a Ferris Bueller for
Yes.
adults.
Yes.
Very
yeah.
much so.
Yeah.
Where his mum and dad go away. He's from a very wealthy family, and he goes wild and ends up. His mate ends up ringing a call girl to come round, and it sparks off this series of events that ends up with him trashing his dad's car and like
Yeah.
getting into a fight with a pimp and striking up a relationship with this girl who's played by Rebecca De Mornay. In fact, I've got a clip of her. So I was reading up on the film a little bit, and I've got a clip of her describing what makes a film endure. And I've got it here
Let's
just
listen.
for you guys to check it
Yeah.
out, because I think it's really well put.
You know, when you make a movie, the main players together have to have the same dream, I realized from that movie. The actors, the director, the writer, the DP. If they're all dreaming the same dream and the script's good, it has a really great chance of being this perfect pyramid, which is what Risky Business achieved because of the players that Paul Brickman put into place. So rare that happens. That's why that film is still a gem.
Wow.
Cool.
What's interesting about that film is there are two endings, because Paul was forced by the studio to slightly edit his intended ending.
Okay.
With like this cutaway where it's slightly more of a happy ending, and he eventually was able to, at some awards do, like recut his ending, and you can check them out on YouTube, the two different versions. And I've got a clip from his real ending here, which also shows you some of the really cool music in it.
My name is Joel Goodson. I deal in human fulfillment. I grossed over $8,000 in one night. Isn't life grand?
That's the last words of the film.
Nice.
Really cool soundtrack. I love it. And I also really like the relationship between him and Rebecca De Mornay. I thought it was a really good sort of love story. Really well told.
Cool.
So yeah. Loved
Very
it.
nice.
It's the perfect hangover film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your highlight?
Yeah, I also watched, because some people at work made me watch it, A Knight's Tale with Paul Bettany.
And
people.
Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think?
It was fun.
It's
like-
I don't think it's supposed to be anything
Yeah.
else, really.
What is it about?
About a night.
It's a
Isn't it about a-
medieval comedy.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. I've seen
A joust
it.
comedy.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
yes. A throwback.
And the poster is literally just Heath Ledger's face. It's like a classic
He
early
is
noughties.
very hot.
He's very handsome, yeah. he's got a bit of a surfer vibe about him.
He does actually. He could have been in Point Break.
Yes, he could.
Oh,
if
there was a-
he'd-
Definitely.
if
wait,
he'd
there
been-
is a remake,
There is a
isn't there?
remake. Yeah, if he'd still been alive, he possibly could have been cast in that and would have done a much better job than the actors in it.
My hot take is that Patrick Swayze is quite good, but like
That's
Keanu
not a hot take.
Reeves-
Patrick Swayze is great in that film.
Oh, cool. Oh, I thought you meant that you didn't like the.
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay.
I hate the remake.
Oh, sorry. I
No,
thought
the
you-
remake's dreadful.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant
I've
the
not seen
ori-
it.
Okay.
I love Point Break.
Yeah. Oh, well, I love Patrick Swayze in Point Break. I don't love Keanu Reeves in Point Break, but we'll get to that
Okay.
because I feel like their acting range isn't quite.
Okay. How can you not love a
Yeah.
man called Johnny Utah?
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to hit Lake House proportions on every
He's
film.
listen. I love the man, but the
It's
acting
very early.
jobs are
It's
not.
very early Keanu, I guess.
Yeah. It's just the dialogue doesn't match the face.
Dialogue
His talking is very
Like
wooden.
the facial expressions don't
Yeah.
quite like the.
Well,
yeah.
just because there are no facial expressions.
He's
Yes,
a bit
exactly.
like a moody teenager, like belting out each
Yeah.
line. Like he's a bit annoyed all the time.
Yeah, it's like he has a teleprompter in front of him, though.
It's very red, isn't it?
Give
You
me
can- you can-
give me
yeah.
the lines.
Yeah.
You can hear
so,
him read.
Yeah.
It's very it sounds like he's reading it.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is why Matrix, like he was such a good cast. He was so well cast in that film because it doesn't require a lot of that. It's more of a physical performance, and he does that so well. Tangent.
That's for later.
Tangent.
Keep listening to the podcast and you'll hear the rest of that conversation.
Well, we'll talk about the final scene later.
And his
But,
acting in the final scene.
Academy Award worthy.
Some rain-swept acting. I love it.
I was thinking about the
So funny.
the logistics of recording that scene, and it must have been really hard to like get the sound to work with all that water pissing everywhere.
driving rain. And then
How
just
did you do that?
I don't know. You'd have to like protect all the mics and be really careful.
wrap condoms around them and stuff like that. Yeah.
Unless the whole shoot was like re-ADR'd afterwards.
I
or
was
something.
gonna say
Yeah.
they used to do that back in the day quite a lot, right?
Maybe that would explain the lack of sync between Keanu's lips and his voice. In fact, the whole film was just done separately.
In the
Yeah,
studio.
it's actually he's just a half a second off on the ADR. That's the problem. And you get like a rip of a film online, and the sound would just be a little bit off.
Oh,
you
dear.
know, and
I
it's-
find
it, like,
that
fucks
so
with your brain.
infuriating.
Yeah, messes with your head.
yeah. Funny.
Fair enough.
What you've been watching?
Yeah, Ben.
I've been watching quite a lot actually. So like I after watching Marvel Civil War, I went and I watched. I thought to myself, like, is it just superhero fatigue? Are these like, is it a thing where these movies it's just wearing on me and like it's too much? And I was like, I'll go back and I'll watch the first Iron Man and I'll watch Civil War because I really enjoyed that one. And what I realized is that I don't know if superhero fatigue is a thing. It's just the films are shit now. Like the quality has just dipped because I don't know if they're running out of ideas or whatever it is, but like the original Iron Man still holds up really well. Civil War still holds up as one of the better superhero movies probably of all time. And yeah, I was just like, oh, okay, so the new ones are just shit. Like, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy is a standout because it's actually a good film. The rest of them have all just been pretty
I saw
shonky.
Guardians.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus now. Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah, I actually bought it for £14.
Ooh.
What?
Why would you
Rented
do that?
it because it wasn't out when I got.
okay.
I saw it a few weeks ago actually.
Yeah. But yeah, and then I watched Juno the other night, which I hadn't
Oh,
watched
I
in
love that film.
ages. Which again, speaking of like an incredible soundtrack, so good,
Yeah.
and like Elliot Page is like everybody in it is incredible. Like Olivia Trilby, Elliot Page. I think it could be like my favorite. J.K. Simmons, is that his name?
Yeah.
I could be my favorite J.K. Simmons performance. I know everybody will go on about and your poster of Whiplash, but actually he's so good as that dad. And there's so many I haven't watched that film in so long, and there's so many scenes in it that, like, I was probably a teenager when I watched it last, and there's so many scenes now that I like. Obviously, we're going to talk about like films that kind of scarred you as a child. But there's so many scenes in that film that I see completely differently now. Like the scene when she tells them that she's pregnant and his reaction. And I turned to Ellie and I was like, Jesus Christ, like thinking about that now as like someone who could have kids, saying that to your daughter, like, Jesus Christ, like how could you say that? And finding it like much more emotional than the first time I saw it. And it was just such like Jason Reitman's just.
Yeah.
Do you ever compare it to Knocked Up?
Similar vein. I think Juno has a lot more heart than Knocked Up, though, because Knocked Up is just a straight up like I think Knocked Up is really funny, but it's like Juno has, and they're probably similar time as well, like around kind of 2008, maybe 2009. But Juno's just got so much more heart to it, and there's a much, like, I don't think I ever really appreciated kind of how dark the storyline between her and guy for Arrested Development. Oh my God. The lead actor from Arrested Development.
Jason Bateman.
Is it Jason Bateman? Yeah.
The lead actor from Arrested Development.
Yeah, Jason Bateman. Yeah, her and Jason Bateman's relationship, and how like she's the 16-year-old girl who's giving them her baby, and how he kind of like gets quite like close with her, and it gets really like I'd never really, because I hadn't watched it in so long, I'd forgotten maybe. I'd either forgotten or I hadn't realised it when I first watched it, how uncomfortable that relationship is. But actually, like, Elliot Page is just plays it brilliantly throughout the whole film, and there's so many good like retro things in it, like the hamburger phone and all that kind of stuff, and you know, Michael Cera and his orange Tic Tacs was just so good. And that was a nice one to watch just before seeing Barbie on Saturday night.
And you love Barbie.
I've taken a couple of days to like digest Barbie, and I say this with no exaggeration, I genuinely think it's one of the best films I've ever seen. Like, honest to God, because I've really thought about it a lot over the last, like, more than I thought I would going into seeing it. I thought it was just going to be this fun film. And having seen Oppenheimer, which, like, the perfect way to put it is, like, Oppenheimer is this incredible film of, like, what you can do, like, filmmaking as a craft of, like, what you can do with the way they did it so practically and the performances in it. Barbie, having watched it, is a film that made me, like, every second of it, I was like, this is why I love going to the cinema. Mm-hmm. And it made me feel like I'm just getting emotional now talking about it. Like, I felt like I cried twice. I'm happy to say that. The soundtrack, it's all produced by Mark Ronson. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's the catchiest songs you will ever hear. It's so good. The performances in it are fantastic. It looks amazing. And it's just like, it like strikes this perfect balance between being able to be really funny and then also really heartfelt and have a really important message. I genuinely came out of it being like, I think that's one of the, like, my favorite films ever. I genuinely, like, going into this summer, I thought Oppenheimer and Barbie. I'm such a Nolan fanboy, Oppenheimer all the way. Came out of Barbie and I was like, I want to watch that film on repeat. It is that good. So if you haven't seen it, like, it's just incredible. I've been listening to the soundtrack the last couple of days, and it generally makes me emotional listening to it. Like, I've spoken on the podcast before about how, like, a really good soundtrack can bring you back to that, like, how you felt when you first watched the film. There's a Billie Eilish song in that film that every time I listen to it, I was listening to it on the tube the other morning going to work. I thought I was going to cry in front of about 50 people on the tube. Like, it's that good. I cannot praise it highly enough. So yeah, like, so if you need to go and see it, if you feel the need to see it and you need someone to see it with you, let me know, because I will gladly see it again. And I think you'll love the soundtrack. I really do.
I'm just Ken.
Well, and here's my thing. And I think I said this in the group chat. I don't think it would win best song at the Oscars. I think the Billie Eilish one, if it gets nominated, will win it, because it's just like, as a song, it's just amazing. But I want to see I'm Just Ken at the Oscars purely so we can see Ryan Gosling and Simu Liu and all the amazing people who played Ken actually on stage with Slash. Slash plays lead guitar on that song. And it's just, insane. It's all fantastic. Yeah. So
Ronson never misses, does he?
He doesn't. I was like, after I heard about it, I was like, I haven't really thought about Mark Ronson in a very long time. And then I was like, holy shit, this guy should do, like, movie soundtracks more. He's that, like, it's that good. Like, it's an amazing collection of, like, artists and singer songwriters on it as well. So There's like a Charlie XCX song which samples "Oh Mickey, You're So Fine." There's one that samples that song "Butterfly" from the Naughties. Like, it's really, really cool the way he's done it. So yeah, if you can't see the film, at least listen to the soundtrack because it's that cool. It's just so cool. But yeah, not rant, but like praise for Barbie.
No, I mean, it's going to be, it's a cultural cornerstone for cinema. I think we're going to look at it, 50 years from now, we're going to think about what it achieved, mostly because I would love to be a fly on the wall in those conversations, that Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig had to have with executives and Mattel to get the story right, because they had to make a fool out of themselves to get that movie made. And the company's portrayed a very certain way. It never comes across as like foolish, though. No, sincere. It's very sincere. It's a very, very sincere film. Yeah.
Is it the opposite of the Nike Air Jordans film, which is like a 90-minute, like, praise be Nike all the way through?
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not praising Mattel at all. It's not like a.
It talks about like eating disorders. Like, it talks about that.
Like when you see Mattel in the film, they make a very big point about like the whole board of Mattel is all men, and it's like, why is the whole board of the company that makes Barbie all men and stuff? Gosling's amazing in it, and Margot Robbie's really good. I think there's been lots of stuff where everyone's like, it's Gosling's film, and I will admit he is fantastic. But I think you have to give a lot of credit to Margot Robbie to be able to, like, Barbie, which is this universally known and loved doll, to be able to like have some emotional depth to that kind of character. It's like trying to play Bond with some emotional depth. Like, it's really bloody hard. And so the fact that she's able to do that and like carry the film throughout, that's why it makes it easy for it to be Ryan Gosling's film, because he just he has a great song and like he has some funny outfits and like when he goes on, he's like the comic relief and has these really funny lines. Yeah. But she carries the film still. Like he wouldn't be as good if it wasn't for her and the supporting cast of people in it. Yeah. So yeah, I just loved it.
Well, Simon, you have an assignment now.
I better watch
it. You do. Yeah. What about you, Sophie?
Well, very quickly, I have a couple of recommendations. So the first one, have you heard of the miniseries Hijack on Apple TV Plus? Have you seen it anywhere?
It's the Idris Elba one, but I'm too afraid of flying to watch it.
Oh, so yeah. Well, I loved it, and I'm not a big fan of Apple TV shows. Most of them I've stopped halfway through, but this one was just really good. It has all of the hallmarks that you need for a real-time TV event, like Think 24. So it basically is about a hijacking on a plane all the way to London. Oop. That's why dishwasher, because we're sharing my kitchen. Yeah. We're recording in my kitchen.
If you didn't know, we record in Sophie's kitchen.
Yeah. So hijacking on a plane on the way to London, and on board you have this passenger, Idris Elba, who happens to be a successful negotiator.
Of course.
Yes. And he kind of like saved the day. But he's just really well done. As in, it's a kind of show that, keeps you engaged throughout. I think it's very well shot. Great
How many
performances.
episodes?
Just 8 or 9 tops.
Okay.
What, like an hour each?
40 minutes, but
I could watch that.
Yeah, but
that's within tolerance.
It's the kind of show that gets you, like, you want to watch the next episode. Like, it's very cliffhangery. Right. Like, it's clickbaity.
You're
but in a good way.
The second person, I think, this week that said they've watched Hijack.
Yeah, it's like great for like summer watch for sure. So that's one.
Post holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you don't have to get on the plane, you're like, it's fine. Yeah, I can watch a plane being hijacked.
Maybe watch it on the plane. Yeah.
No, I'm flying in 2 weeks. That's not happening.
And then the second recommendation is about a documentary on Netflix called The Deepest Breath.
I really want to watch that. I've watched a lot of stuff on YouTube about it. Yeah, it's the free diving. Movie,
it's
right?
so good. So it's produced by A24.
Okay.
And it basically tells the story of this like record-breaking free diver called Alicia Zecchini and her safety diver, Stephen Keenan. And it's so well produced. It's scary. Like, I thought it was a horror documentary halfway through because, I don't know, the way they shoot, like, underwater.
I find the whole idea of free diving absolutely petrifying.
I had no idea it was a thing. So to me, it was like, I had no idea that this was a sport. That people like willingly went to their deaths. Like, I don't know. For me, that's just a bizarre sport. But the story and the relationship between the two is just like very well, told. Cool. So yeah, recommend The Deepest Breath.
Yeah, I might watch that this weekend. I've been meaning to watch it. Like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, definitely going on the list.
Yeah, it's rare to get like a document that gets you emotional. Like, it just.
especially with Netflix because they churn them out so much.
They have a formula as well, and you know what I've noticed with Netflix documentaries is that they follow the Netflix formula, where like the first 2 minutes are basically a trailer. Have you noticed that? They show you the whole plot.
Well,
it's like a TikTok video where they show
Yeah.
you the whole plot in like 2 minutes, and then they get into back in 1975.
Yeah, I think they hit the nail on the head with Icarus, and they've kind of done the same thing ever since.
Wait, is Icarus the Russian cycling one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a Netflix produced one?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
it
a
was
Netflix
good. I did
documentary.
enjoy that.
And
But that's such an unusual documentary that takes such a random left turn.
I know,
halfway
yeah.
through.
I think that's why I love that one so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked about Icarus on the podcast
That's right, because
before.
that one you're like, oh, it's just another documentary, and then suddenly it goes.
Whereas I think Netflix are kind of like, oh, that's a good formula to use. Like documentaries, even like Netflix documentaries are done in an unconventional sense, in that it's like a normal documentary tells you the thing from start to finish, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this person did this thing. Whereas Netflix ones have like a narrative to them, almost like filmmaking beats and narrative to keep people interested and engaged. As you say, like to have that bit at the start where it's like gives you like an adrenaline hit with all the shit that happens, and then you kind of like, well, I have to fucking find out what happens now.
Coming up on Below Deck.
Yeah.
I want to watch Below Deck, by the way.
God.
It's brilliant. It's great.
I've heard the best.
It's perfect trash reality
I've
television.
heard the best. Yeah. Okay. So, any other recos?
Thick of It is now on BBC, which Simon told me, so go and
Ooh,
watch
good.
that.
Shout out.
I've been
Okay,
watching that.
I will watch
Yeah,
that.
do watch it. That brilliant bit where he's like, to properly express myself, I'm going to have to use what some people would describe as graphic sexual imagery, and I just want to make sure you're okay with that. It's like, it's so brilliant and so intense. But Peter Capaldi is just, it's funny, I can't watch Peter Capaldi in anything else because he's so perfect in that role at all. Like, sadly, it almost defines him. He's so good.
Yeah, I'm happy for that to define him.
Yeah. If I was him, I would be
I
too.
think he would be too.
What's this?
It's a movie.
No!
Oh, I liked it.
No!
Can I say something?
No!
I don't get it.
What don't you get about it?
So, our Queen segment is back, and your answers to our questions did not disappoint. So, Simon wanted us to ask you, what is one film that traumatized you when you were younger and haven't revisited since, most probably? So, we received over 120, 130 responses and counting. I feel like we may be onto something here. I wonder whether, I don't know, like if you had a therapist, maybe they need to explore the movies that you watched as a child to go through your childhood trauma.
Forget your mum and dad.
No,
Yeah.
it's
All
like,
about the films.
it's all
Yeah.
about a never-ending story.
What films did your mum and dad let you watch is the question.
But did you not always have a friend that was allowed to watch way naughtier films than you?
Well, that
were?
was the thing. Do you know, coming into this, I was really racked my brains to think of a movie that like affected me in that way, and I don't know if there are many because my parents just did not allow us to watch.
Oh, they were very
anything.
strict.
Yeah, well, not very strict, but like, well, I don't know. Maybe we never had like, but also my parents weren't movie people, so it's not like we had like horror movies in the house or anything like that. My uncle was a movie person, but I don't think he would have let me watch any of the horror movies that he had.
No, so I think there are two scenarios. So one is what happened to me. So you have older siblings.
Oh, yeah.
And then they prank you and
I
they
was the
scar you for
eldest,
life.
so yeah.
Yeah, so that's what happened with my sisters, where they locked me when I was 5 to my room and forced me to watch it.
Oh my God! Why?
And
What's wrong with your sisters?
Oh,
Locked you in your room as a 5-year-old and made
Yeah.
you watch it.
Yeah, they're not well, but I love them. And you know what's the worst part?
Do they listen to this podcast?
Probably.
What is wrong with you if you're
Yeah,
listening to this
yeah.
podcast? I hope you've apologized to Sophie.
Yes, they tried, but they've done so much. They've done worse things, Ben. They pretend like when I was 10, I was in my bedroom, I was playing with my dolls, and they pretended to break into the house.
Oh my God.
They staged a break-in.
With how do you call it? Like
Balaclavas.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my God.
And
How are you not horrendously traumatized?
I am that's
How can
3
you live
years
on
worth
your
of
own?
therapy. Like just
Yeah.
have to go through it.
my God.
And I locked myself into the wardrobe this summer. I remember. Anyway, going back to it, the worst part was that the TV was like elevated. Was like
so you couldn't reach it
I
to turn it
couldn't
off?
physically reach it.
No.
Oh man.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
That's traumatizing.
Yes. So needless to say, I hate clowns, and I've hated
And you hate your
clowns
sisters.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, so scenario number 1, you have older siblings who traumatize you. Scenario number 2, you probably watched the film when you were slightly older, so maybe 12, 13, and you had access to something like LimeWire and you wanted to get naughty with your friends.
You got access to LimeWire.
Okay,
You want to
so
get
maybe-
naughty with your friends.
maybe not
Everybody's on
porn.
MSN Messenger and having a good time.
Maybe not porn, but also maybe porn. But like what I find interesting about our responses is that a lot of people mention films like Serbian film or like The Human
Centipede.
Yeah, so these are films you would watch with your friends to like...
Like your friends, like,
They would,
or
prank each other.
as you say, Simon, your friend who's allowed watch like horror movies.
Yeah, and then scenario number 3, you have parents that just don't know that Terminator is not safe for children.
Yeah.
Yeah, somehow you find the VHS.
Yeah. It was an interesting one. Somebody and I think it's a good one to mention because we just did an episode on it. But somebody said Spirited Away.
Yes.
And they said, like, what was it? Always hid behind the sofa when No Face started eating people. And actually thinking back to rewatching that film for the podcast, I think if I had watched that film as a kid, that probably would have scared the shit out of me.
Such a terrifying.
Like No Face is so like grotesque looking.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's like it's a scary thing. It's like so just gross. Like it's just kind of like skin crawling.
I find it more interesting where it's films that aren't just made to be scary, when it's like films that are surprisingly traumatizing that you don't expect to be.
Well, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was another one, and that's not made to be scary. Like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is a musical, but it has this one incredibly scary character in the Joel Catcher.
Yeah, he's terrifying. Mine was E.T. and I was just
you've said
so
that
scared
before.
of aliens. And like,
It looks creepy.
yeah,
Out of context.
It looks like a shriveled testicle, yeah.
I couldn't go outside in the garden when it was dark on my own for years because I thought like,
still
there could be an
can't do
alien in the bushes.
I still can't do that.
Yeah.
There's murders in the back garden.
Also, the scene that used to really come back and haunt me was the one where they have the sort of like clean tunnels and you hear the breathing, like that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why, and that really terrified me.
We did get Scary Movie and Scream quite a lot in
Scary
the
Movie isn't
comments.
like the parody film.
Yeah, which I guess
Interesting.
you can, if you see it quite young, maybe
Yeah,
it's still
true.
scary.
Yeah. Well, if you don't realize that it's a parody, it can still be quite scary.
Exactly. So someone said Mulholland Drive. I was 11. Yeah, it's a bit too trippy, but I wouldn't say it's scary. But I can see, the rabbit. It's kind of scary.
Someone just said Lord of the Rings, and as a
Yeah.
big fan of Lord of the Rings and someone who watched it as a child, I need to know more. You need to tell me what scared you.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, someone said Requiem for a Dream, and I probably know all the bits.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like half the response. Yeah, I feel like 50% of the responses are Never Ending Story and Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah, I remember the first time in Requiem for a Dream, I saw the scene where his like arm has gone bad from all the injecting, and I remember being really shocked by all of there's like a fissure in his arm.
Oh
I remember
God.
like retching when I saw that.
Horrible. The Fog, The Butterfly Effect, Midnight Express. It's a bit of a stretch, but okay. I see you. I Am Legend.
I found that maybe a little bit scary when I was younger.
Yeah.
Again, it depends on what age you saw that. Because I remember seeing I Am
vampires.
Legend in the cinema. You can't put your hands in front of your eyes in the cinema. You got to be a big boy, and you got to keep watching.
True.
Someone said Dick Tracy. I thought this was a good one. There was a kid screening at a holiday park my family stayed in France, which brings back lots of childhood memories for me. When I was 4, and the weird prosthetics creeped me out so much I ran back to our caravan. Still haven't had the courage to rewatch it 30 years later. I mean, Big died 1987. I feel your pain on that one. We've all been to France and sat in caravan parks and been
the
scared
rain.
by something in the rain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Priyank says The Truman Show because the scale of the fraud committed on this man since his birth and his desperate efforts to free himself from this unseen conspiracy made me bawl my eyes out every time.
Oh God.
It's an all-time favourite now. I've seen it many times.
It's a nice comment. Labyrinth, 1986. All the puppets creatures freaked me out. Rewatched it a couple of times as an adult and it still makes me uncomfortable. Haha. It is kind of...
Yeah, it is weird. It is that kind of like is Labyrinth Henson puppets? Is it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it looks so good today.
Yeah.
Because there's no CGI in it. It looks so like fresh and maybe it's been remastered or something, but it beats CGI of today still.
Someone said Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs from the 1937 film. But I have heard that it's supposed to
Early
be creepy.
Disney is, because I remember my
Yeah, early
sister's
Disney's
film
weird.
is the Medusa. The Medusa Disney film, is it? Is there a film called Medusa?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, she's in the Disney film?
Little Mermaid.
The lady with
Ursula.
snakes in her hair.
Oh,
yeah,
Medusa.
Medusa.
But
Yeah, I don't
who-
know the Disney film
Yeah, I
though.
don't know the Disney film.
I can't remember what film that's in. But anyway, Sarah was like absolutely traumatized by that
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah. The Exorcist, The Passion of the Christ.
Well, now, yeah, if you were watching The Passion of the Christ as a young person, I mean, who let you watch that film? Because I know it's not a horror film, but who let you near that film? It's so graphic. It's it's such an uncomfortable film to watch.
Yeah, could have
and
been
also
on
as a
TV,
child, what are you
maybe,
getting out of it?
Maybe
What are
on
you getting out of it?
TV, weirdly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone said Tideland by Terry Gilliam.
I don't know
that.
that.
I'm going to look that up.
Somebody said The Road, which I agree
Yeah.
with. That is just a horrifically harrowing film, no matter when you watch it.
Yes.
My Girl.
Oh, emotional trauma.
Is that Macaulay Culkin? I think it is. I think it's really sad. Is that the one with the bee sting?
1991. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, where he's allergic to bee
Coming of
stings.
it, yes. Yeah.
It is really sad.
We didn't have many people saying like emotional ones where the films were that well. Obviously, the Truman Show one.
Yeah,
I remember
and
watching
Bambi.
watching Lilo and Stitch as a child and in the cinema, and I have such a vivid memory of being like, "Don't." It was at like a birthday party. I was like, "Don't cry in front of your friends. It's really sad."
Vodek said House of Cards 1993, and I was allowed to watch that, I think, with my mum and dad or something. It's the original House of Cards,
Is that what
BBC version.
Oh, the BBC. The
And that is
Netflix one
terrifying.
based off.
Really? In what way?
It's much darker, I think, than the new the Netflix mega budget one.
Even in
I had no
hindsight, with
idea
everything
it was-
Spacey did.
okay.
Yeah, and it's Francis Urquhart is played by this really nasty sort of British guy, and it's all played out around Westminster.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
If you ever get the chance to watch it, it's superb,
Yeah.
and it's much shorter than the Netflix.
I would watch
It's
it.
well, it's a film, isn't it? Whereas the Netflix is like 5 seasons or 4
I think
seasons.
the BBC the 1993 House of Cards was the series.
Oh, it's a series as well.
but
Okay.
it's not as many.
Cool.
Someone said the most traumatic thing I ever saw as a child was the scene in Who Framed Roger Rabbit where Christopher Lloyd gets run over by a
Or when he
cement
gets run
roller.
over by
Yes.
the spent roller, yeah.
And then his eyes pop out to reveal that he's a toon.
Do you know what? Christopher Lloyd is really scary in that. I know
Yes.
I know exactly what scene you're talking about. And he goes, he's flattened and he gets up and he's completely flat and he goes over to like a gas canister and sucks the gas canister that makes him pop up. He's really terrifying in that film. And there's all those scenes where he kills the cartoons by dipping them in acid. A really, really traumatic villain for a film that is
Is that
kind
the
of a
film
kids'
that's
film.
Bob Hoskins?
Yeah, Bob Hoskins, yeah. Who Framed Roger Rabbit's a great film. Fantastic. But he is very scary, yeah.
This one made me laugh. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. That basilisk scene was too much for a 7-year-old me.
Which
Scalding
scene?
Monty. The basilisk, the
The
snake.
giant snake
Oh.
Do you
that
remember
bites him
that
through
was
the
very
arm.
scary, actually.
Yeah.
I do remember it being quite horrifying.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Another one
another
for me was the ending of Mrs. Doubtfire that I found very emotional because they don't get back together.
Yeah.
You know the way
And-
you know that game where you have to be like, I want you to get from this thing to this thing.
The tenuous
And you-
link game.
Yeah, and you have to say how many steps
Yeah.
you'll get it in. We do that every episode with you, Simon. And
Yeah.
it's normally about I'd say you could get to Doubtfire in 3 moves no matter what I gave you.
Probably.
I think we need to do a Williams episode at some point.
We do.
One of my dad's favourite films is Dead Poets Society.
Oh, it's an incredible film.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with Point Break.
Oh, look, a message from our sponsor.
G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. Nah, yo, hold my poodle. Hey, yo, what's up? Y'all got a problem? Y'all want some of this?
Without much further ado,
Here we go again.
And we're back. Today, we're going to talk about Point Break, the 1991 action thriller directed by Catherine Bigelow, starring Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze. So, Point Break is a film that explores the themes of friendship, loyalty, adrenaline, and freedom through the story of an undercover FBI agent who infiltrates a group of bank robbers who also happen to be surfers. The film has developed a cult following over the years and has been super influential in pop culture, inspiring parodies, SNL skits, and even, as Ben said, a remake, which is not that great, in 2015. Have you seen it?
Yes.
I've seen probably the first 20 minutes of it.
Yeah,
and
it's
then I
pretty
had
dre-
to
it's pretty
just...
dreadful. There's a lot more rock climbing in it. They do like this scene that's supposed to be like really
Really?
extreme, climbing up a rock face by a waterfall.
So other than that, is it like shot for shot remake or more like an
I
inspired?
think it's more like it follows the same story, but I don't know if it's like Vince Vaughn, Psycho shot for shot style. It's shit though.
Well, it had no business being remade.
No, it didn't. It didn't need to be. The film is good enough in itself that it didn't need to be. The film starts with one of the best lines ever in Little Hand Says It's Time to Rock and Roll. Like, what a great line. What a fucking brilliant way to start.
Okay, so this wasn't your first watch, right? You'd both seen it before.
I didn't need to see it again.
No, I don't
'Cause
think
it's-
you need.
It's quite a vacuous film, I'd say. And it's not, even though I enjoy it, I wouldn't want to watch it too often because it's not a lot to it.
Yep.
It's not the sort of film you can find new treats buried within the fabric of the acting and scripts and stuff.
But then I think there's, weirdly, having watched Heat really recently, and two films that both came out in the 90s that are about two people, to like a policeman and some of a different side, from the bank robbing side of things. There's kind of similarities between the Pacino and De Niro and Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Even the ending.
Even the final scene.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
And how, like, in like De Niro's thing in Heat is he says, like I told you I wasn't going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Swayze's last thing is, what am I going to do? What, like, his whole thing is about, like, what would I do behind bars? Like, where am I going to go?
It's exactly that.
And letting him go to his death. Like, Keanu Reeves knows he's going in the water to die. Like, everybody knows that.
But does Pacino say that he's young, dumb, and full of cum?
I'm sorry.
Horrid line.
Yeah, but he might not say that, but he still does that weird scene with Hank Azaria where he talks about the woman's ass.
Oh,
like,
yeah, that is
come
weird.
on. Like, there's weird scenes in both films.
I feel like, and I didn't have time to research the film properly, but I have to say, I expected more from Catherine Bigelow. Like, for a woman-directed film, it's very sexist.
Dude, she's showing men for what they are.
True, yeah.
Maybe that's where it is. But I guess you can argue that for the male gaze as well. That, okay, what's the difference between that and any other film that's actually sexist? I don't know. I have to think about it. I just, because I watched it, 2 days ago?
Took the male gaze and piped it through Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a counter argument, I thought that Laurie Petty's character was really interesting. And she was
Taylor, is his character?
Tyler.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was probably, the central piece.
The love interest.
The love interest. But I also felt like, looking back, because you could argue that Swayze's character he claimed to be the most spiritual, like surfer and like guru and all that bullshit. But I thought she was the most spiritual. As in, she was in it for the actual sport and for the fun of it and to bring people together. I thought Swayze was very selfish, and Keanu was another
Swayze's just
story.
chasing a high. That's his whole character's thing.
Yeah, but it's a very self-centered way of living.
Doing bank robberies?
Yeah, way of living. Like, he killed, everything he did. Like, he had no interest in anyone but himself.
He had a wonky moral compass at best.
Right.
Yeah. Well, he uses that justification that every bank robber in every movie uses. Like, don't worry, the bank's got insurance. We're not stealing your money. We're stealing theirs.
We never go to the vault. We only take.
We never go to the vault. We only take cash.
Whatever.
We never shoot anybody because that is an important. That's another thing that, like, the ex-presidents don't kill anyone until that final robbery that goes awry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the first time they actually kill anyone. They use guns, but they don't actually kill anyone.
Yep. Okay, so we can jump to the final scene because there's a lot to talk about. And one of the most interesting things that I found or realized about this film is that even though, it's like a typical high concept action film, it's ending quite, open for interpretation. Like, there's a lot to unpack when you think about it. So the ending takes place 9 years after the main events of the film, when Utah, Keanu Reeves, finally tracks down Bodhi, Patrick Swayze, to Bells Beach, you're right, Ben, in Australia, where the 50-year storm has started producing those deadly waves. I love the dialogue in this scene, so we can play a clip from it.
There's no way I can handle a cage, man.
It's basically the final scene of Heat, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's gotta be that way.
I think it's because it does the cliches in such an unapologetic way. That's why it's become so loved.
Yeah.
It's not trying to be cool. It's just being what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, man. Okay. I'm gonna go to jail, and I'll pay, and Johnny Utah gets his guy. Right? Good for you. That's real good. Gonna be a big hero now. But look at it, Johnny. Look at it! This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, man. Just let me go out there. Let me get one wave before you take me. One wave. I mean, where am I gonna go, man? Cliffs on both sides. I'm not gonna paddle in New Zealand.
It's a great line.
Yeah. It has so many good lines.
It's been about this moment, Johnny.
It's like a school play, I think, when you listen to it.
It's very exaggerated.
Yeah.
Come on.
Would you
Look at
take, between this and Roadhouse, which would you take?
Oh, this.
Really?
Yeah,
I
you joke
pick
with me.
Roadhouse every time.
Really?
Yeah. Did you hear the Roadhouse line in this film?
No.
Where there's a line in the dialogue where they go to Patrick's Roadhouse.
Oh, no.
And I had to look it up, and apparently it's a coincidence. But
Oh, right.
I was
Okay.
like, what?
Funny. Okay, so Yuta decides to let Bodhi go and serve the final wave. knowing that he will most likely, die in the process, he then throws his FBI badge into the ocean, kind of like showing that he's letting go of whatever.
He's
his
resigning.
identity and like former life.
Although everyone was quite twattish to him at the FBI, weren't they?
Yeah, but it's interesting. We can talk about it, but like he went
But he's
there
very
quite
bad at his job.
determined to like get him, and then he had the change of heart when I don't know, Patrick Swayze said like one last wave, man.
Well, what does Patrick Swayze do? I mean, apart from shooting Gary Busey, what has Patrick Swayze done to him other than kind of...
Well, he got his girlfriend and then tried to threaten to torture her.
Yeah, up until that point, though, I
naughty.
think it's kind of all about him like unlocking this thing in him that he's been this pencil pusher like all his life since injuring himself in college. And actually, like he, it as you say, in like the most cliched way possible, he like introduces him to this thing because he said, isn't there one line in that scene? He's like, "It still serves like every day after work."
Well, that's the thing, and that's the first question that comes out of the final scene. Like, why did Reeves, Utah let Bodhi go? And in my opinion, it's because you're right. In the beginning, like I saw Keanu Reeves' character almost like what Cruise represents in Top Gun, the original one. That's sort of like, I don't want to comply with the law. Like I'm better, I'm better than everyone else. Like very arrogant and very self-absorbed.
Or Pacino in Heat.
Yes, but he was more broken. I think he was like, I think
There was still a level of arrogance and self-absorption though in Heat. That's the way his relationship
for sure. I think I thought of Tom Cruise because he was quite young, and then he meets his match or like who he aspires to be in a weird way, and I feel like he's kind of jealous of Swayze.
Well,
when you think about
and
it.
again, like with a lot of these films, it's two people who have like follow like have parallel lives. One
Yes.
goes down the criminal route, one goes down the pencil pushing kind of legal
Goody
policeman route.
two-shoes.
Goody two shoes route.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think we have this scene that probably early in the film that probably defines the dynamic of the relationship where Anthony Kiedis and the crew attack.
Yes.
That's actually one of my favorite scenes.
It's a good scene.
Apparently,
it's quite hard.
apparently they used to. One of the things I read on, and it might not be true, but one of the little trivia bits I think on IMDb was saying that they trained them really hard for the fight sequences in that film, like for hours. And Kiedis didn't show up, which is why when you watch the fight sequence, he gets knocked out in the first 3 seconds.
Right.
Oh my
So
god!
I did notice that he's not very visible.
Yeah,
is he?
because apparently he just didn't show up for the training and gets knocked out really quickly.
Sounds like him.
Yeah, but the way the camera pans around the bad guys' faces in
Oh,
that scene,
yeah, the
it's quite
close-ups.
comical.
Yeah,
it's
it's hilarious.
almost like kind of an Amdram.
Yeah, well, Kiedis looks like
Stuff
he's
that-
like checking himself out in the mirror. He's
Yeah,
like psyching
totally.
himself up. Yeah, it's quite funny.
Yeah. So I think in that scene where Bodhi comes and saves Utah, it kind of defines the friendship and like, he's the protector.
Lest we forget, Patrick Swayze beats it up. He goes, "He's with me, War Child." Because one of the guys' name is War Child. It's so funny.
That's so funny. That's so funny. And I do think, Johnny kind of feeds off of that. Like he wants that kind of person.
I think
in his
there's like
life.
it's talked about a little bit in the film, but I wonder does Johnny Utah kind of feel like almost that's the life that was robbed away from him by this knee injury that like is kind of mentioned at the start when they're playing American football and like somehow Swayze recognizes him like, "You're Johnny Utah, right? Fucking quarterback out of Syracuse," or whatever he says. And he recognizes him. And then as we go further on in the film, he keeps falling down and hurting his knee towards the end of the film. Swayze realizes if I jump from a height anywhere, he can't follow me because his knee is so bad. And it's just like that becomes a more prominent thing. And I wonder, is there something in that, like, that's what he wishes he had this high octane life, but this injury that he got in college forced him not to have that. And now surfing is a way for him to reclaim that. And he meets Bodhi, who is the epitome of everything he kind of wanted to be in that high octane lifestyle.
And he always accepted him, quote unquote, like for who he was. When you think about it, well, like the police, FBI was all about, we're not going to accept you the way you are. And I think he was accepted in that other like underground group, and he felt like that was the chosen family that he wanted to go after. So when Patrick Swayze like gave all that, I feel like it was the monologue in the end that turned Johnny, probably, because I don't know how you perceive the final scene, but he went to the beach quite determined, like with the handcuffs, to actually arrest him.
Well, he's been following him
And
for
he's been
like
following
18 months or something.
almost
Isn't
like
that the thing?
in
He's
an
like,
obsessive way. Yeah,
and keeps saying like, I've gone to all these different places and I keep
in
just
Mexico.
missing you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the only thing that changed was a monologue that was given by, like, he had a change of heart right in that moment. So I'm guessing it was like
What,
one
where
last
he lets
wave.
him do the wave? Yeah, it's really. It doesn't flow at all. In fact, I find the whole final scene feel like it was just bolted on from a different movie. I know it's a lot of times passed, but it just felt like we'd just gone into a different film. It was just too rushed.
maybe.
It was too rushed, I think.
Yeah.
It needed more of a careful landing into that final scene. It was just like cut.
It
And it's
makes
like,
sense.
oh, found you, boom, right, final wave, done.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It was a bit awkward
Yeah.
the way it was done.
And that's what Heat does better with that relationship
Yeah.
is because
Yeah.
you get that scene kind of in the middle where the two sit down for
dining room,
coffee
yeah.
and they realize they're both like there's the thing in like it does get a bit silly in it where he just like Johnny Utah at that bank robbery just chases after them.
Right.
Even though he's supposed to be undercover infiltrating this gang and they're robbing the bank, he just chases after them.
Yeah.
And Patrick Swayze clearly sees it's him.
But
And then that changes the whole thing where it's like, oh well, we know he's a narc, and so we're gonna fuck shit up, and you know.
The flow into the final scene is really organic in Heat because of the way the chase kind of continues through various streets until it finds its way into the airfield, which then is where the final scene's played out. Whereas in
This is a cut.
yeah, whereas in Point Break, it's like suddenly he's in a different country many moons later, and then he's walking across a bridge, and it's so twee that he finds Patrick on the bridge on his way to surf or whatever. and
Well,
it's job
like
done.
we leave Keanu Reeves and what's the actress's name? Laurie Petty in the middle of the desert. And him and the other guy just drive off in a Jeep and get the money that has been strapped to the other guy who's also now dead because everybody just dies.
It's funny when I always thought they just left the other guy to do.
He's dead.
It's never even mentioned. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, question number 2. Did Bodhi survive the final wave?
I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think so. I think I'd hate the ending if you get a fade to black and then you see him crawling out.
They were very careful to show you him tumbling down the wave, weren't they? In the edit.
to insinuate that he's dead. I think
It's funny that the director and the cast have different opinions. So,
Really?
Bigelow's like, it's open for interpretation. When I'm like, I
hope
hate
he's
this.
dead.
It's such a cop out of a response. And I get like so many directors do that, but whatever. Keanu says that he died.
Mm-hmm.
But Swayze says that no, Bodhi survived because he was too good of a server. So interesting. And I think we've talked about like how people and actors specifically perceive characters and their and their motivations and how they show up in films based on who they're playing. So
what was it? We spoke about that recently, where an
It
actor
wasn't-
kind of disagreed with how his character would have ended. I think Kendall.
Yes, Succession.
In Succession. Yeah, he kind of disagreed with the writing of it, and he would have ended it, like that whole thing about him walking into the sea.
Yeah.
Would have ended it in a different way. It's interesting.
Yeah,
It's interesting the way actors perceive it, but I guess Swayze would say that.
Yeah.
Especially if he wanted to make a sequel,
True.
which unfortunately, obviously, we never would have gotten.
That's
Because
true.
I would prefer a Point Break sequel than a remake. For all its cheesiness and like however good or bad Keanu's acting is, let's park that.
Park the
I
protagonist
think
acting.
I think you can. I think you can because the chemistry between him and Swayze is really good. Like there's a believable element, and maybe that's just because Swayze is such a good actor. Like Swayze is incredible, and I think
The charisma is
so charismatic, like almost like watching that movie, thinking I was like, fucking hell, yeah, I don't know how to surf, but I'd follow this guy into the water. Like I'd believe this dude. I'd fucking jump out of a plane with this guy. Like hell yeah, I would. And then there's other good relationships in the film as well. Like Keanu's relationship with Gary Busey is quite like funny and like a kind of a weird take on this like older cop and then the new young guy and stuff like that.
I like
And
it. Yeah, I thought
it's
it was
like a
really
nice
fun.
relationship.
Yeah.
I don't really know much that Gary Busey's been in. I just kind of know him as
Well,
seems a bit eccentric
my
and
first
crazy.
intro with him was Under Siege.
Oh right, okay,
Which I
yeah.
really enjoyed.
But yeah, there's some like cheesiness aside, there's some really good relationships in the film, which I think
Gary
is what
Busey's got
carries
a
it.
really interesting face.
Very expressive,
Like you say, he does good face acting.
He does
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
good face
Yeah,
acting.
that's
Yeah,
true.
There's a lot happening.
he's
in his
really
face.
expressive eyes and stuff, and he's really good in it. Yeah, it's actually it's a shame that he gets killed towards the end.
Yeah,
Like he's
shame.
very good in it. But I think that's kind of what carries it through and what makes that. That's for me what makes that final scene believable is that I do kind of think no matter what happens, Johnny Utah would follow him to the end of the earth if he asked him to. And I think that says more about Johnny than it does about Bodhi, in that he needs Johnny has an inherent thing of he needs a leader. He maybe he's not someone to lead. He needs someone who needs to be inspired and needs someone to follow. And Bodhi was that guy. And I think that's why he can't arrest him. That's why he lets him go and gives him that one last thing.
The reason why the final scene doesn't have any tension in it is because if he dies, he's dead. If he survives, they're going to arrest him and he's going to go to prison forever. So it's there's not really, because it's the way it's in a cove and stuff.
Well, it's the way you go, I guess.
Yeah.
50-foot walls on each side. I'm not going to paddle to New Zealand.
And I think in their way, nature will do its thing and justice will be served, but not in the way, not under the, law or something. Yeah. Because actually in the final scene, Johnny says he's not coming back. He knows that, he's basically written his death sentence by letting him ride the final wave.
No, I think he knows. I find it weird that Catherine Bigelow says it's open to interpretation, because I think he knows he's letting him, he's letting him go because he knows he's going to die.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to happen to Johnny afterwards? Because he throws away his FBI badge, so meaning he's going to go full-time surfing, and I guess. He's
going to open up a surf shack.
Be a cult leader himself.
But he's got to get back on good terms with, what's she called?
9 years later?
Tyler,
yeah. Because he did lie to her for a long time.
Yeah, but then he saves her.
Yeah, that's true.
That heroic moment where he saves her from the kidnapping that he basically forced upon her. That shouldn't have happened.
She has good reason to be pretty upset with him.
There's that brilliant bit where Bodhi gets him into the back of the van, and there's the most 90s fucking TV and recorder set ever, and then it just plays and it's her being held hostage.
Okay, so you think he's going to turn into a surfer cult leader?
I think he'll refer to... I don't know if he'll turn into a cult leader, but I think he probably walks away from law enforcement in general and probably starts referring to himself as the big kahuna.
Or maybe he finds a house by a lake.
And then marries a woman who dies and sends him a dog and becomes a hitman, and all Keanu Reeves' movies are connected for some weird reason.
I love that.
Yeah.
The KCU. Yeah.
Yeah, and then every night he goes to sleep, he dreams he's in a simulation.
I mean, the lake house and the Matrix, like you say, Ben, are basically the same film.
Two sides of the same coin.
Just the same as Point Break and Heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, can you imagine Keanu Reeves in Heat? That'd be so good.
Oh my God, never.
If he was their teenage son who had a few tantrums, it'd be brilliant.
Instead of, is it Natalie Portman? No, not. Instead of Natalie Portman, it's teenage Keanu.
I could see that. He has Pacino. Yeah, he has a Pacino like complexion. Okay, I think we solved the ending again.
I think so.
Yeah.
So, any last thoughts?
Any parting thoughts?
Any parting shots to take across those mighty waves?
I'd sum it up as basic but fun.
Nice.
Yes,
okay.
I would agree with that. I would call it high octane and enjoyable.
Do you like guns being fired in the air and then
Well, do you know what yes, because I love that scene, because that scene has left a mark on cinema as well. One of my favorite films is Hot Fuzz, and they pastiche that in Hot Fuzz, where he just can't. Where Nick Frost can't shoot his dad, and he does that scene, and they fall asleep watching that film at night, and I just think it's great.
It's so good. I just realized we haven't decided on the next film that we're gonna talk about, so that should be a surprise.
Can we do Risky Business?
Well, for the ending,
we could do Whiskey Business. Yeah,
another Tom Cruise film.
I'm not going to say no.
Okay, so TBC on the next final scene. Could be Risky Business. It could be something else. We will discuss.
We're going to take a bit of a break as well. That's what we haven't said. We're going to take a little bit of a summer break for us to recharge the batteries. Maybe come back with some new stuff. We're going to maybe have a production meeting in the meantime and think of some new content. So.
Over a pint or 5.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be back in a month or so with some cool shit.
Yeah, mid-September, most likely. Something like that.
Sounds like a plan.
Where are you off to, Ben?
I am going to the Edinburgh Fringe for a couple of days, and then I'm going home for about a week.
Exciting!
Yeah,
I'm so jealous.
Go and see some cool shows. That'll be good.
Cool. That's awesome.
I will report back.
Thank you so much for listening. This is the team That Final Scene signing off. We'll see you when we see you. Goodbye.
See ya.
Did you like it? Did you like that?
Did I like it? I loved it.
I had no idea you could milk a cat.
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.